It's time to bring in Dr. Joe. Dr. Joe Congini, Sports Medicine Center, Akron Children's Hospital with us. Good morning, Joe. What do you have for us today?
Hey, Ray, I have an interesting one, and I'm ending with a question. And if you get this one, I'm going to be amazed with you. You amaze me all the time, but this is a toughie. But I'm going to tell you that a little thing. Down at my office for several years, our office is, right behind Canal Park. We're on the 7th floor, so you can see over into the park. And a lot of our young athletes and patients, while they're waiting for us, are watching the minor league teams warm up. They start to come out about 4 o'clock or 3:30 and start to warm up. Or for day games, you can watch the game. It's almost like a loge in our office. And kids have been asking me for years, and I've got to answer this question, is they say, and in fact twice yesterday, kids ask me, hey, why are those baseball players, and particularly those pitchers, warming up with a football? And so I remember off the top of my head about throwing a football and about that being kind of a training technique for pitchers, and it goes back a long way. And so I did some digging last night. I looked at about 8 different articles, and pretty much universally, people feel that it is very good training for baseball and for baseball pitchers particularly. Now, the weighted ball, maybe not so much. That's a split decision. I saw a few articles there on the weighted balls, and some people think they can hurt, some think they can help, but nobody disagreed with us throwing a football. And there were about 5 reasons why that I want to tell your astute audience today. Number one, the elbow angle is a lot closer to 90 degrees when you're throwing a football. In other words, the ball is tighter to the body, so it's a shortened arm action, and it's a lot less stress on the elbow and the shoulder, but particularly the elbow. So that's one thing. Number two, we know through years of football quarterbacks, UCL tears from just throwing the football are very uncommon, almost never. There's a question at one point of whether Drew Brees possibly, but people say, hey, what about Brock Purdy last year? Well, in the NFC Championship game, he tore his UCL, but it was traumatically. He got hit to tear that ligament. And then people that have been around a long time remember the Browns' hopes were dashed in 1988 when Bernie Kosar was hit on the elbow and tore his UCL. I went back and looked that one up, too. But those are usually from trauma, not from overthrowing. Number three, you usually throw it from a medium distance and a medium intensity. So you're not cutting it loose all the time the way people do when they're warming up with baseball. And so these kids use the football as a training technique. Another thing is that I did not know is that specifically it's an ideal motion for pitchers who like to throw the slider. The motion for throwing a slider actually fits very well with throwing a football. And I didn't know that one. And then several teams just said that it breaks up the monotony of just throwing the baseball around. And the Blue Jays had a nice big article about why they warm up throwing the baseball, starting in spring training, but now throughout the season they warm up. Even this late in the season, yesterday in August, they're still warming up throwing a football. So there were several articles that back that up. But this goes back a long way. And there is a guru, a pitching professor, who really is known as one of the best teachers for pitchers from a long time ago. And it's very obscure, very, very obscure. But I wanted to ask you, do you recall the name of the pitcher who started this in the 80s or 90s, started talking to pitchers and baseball players about throwing a football?
I do not. And I can go back, and I kind of remember when that whole thing began, but I can't remember.
He was credited with training Nolan Ryan, and interestingly, he taught a young Tom Brady. And so he's taught many, many pitchers, and he still is the pitching guru. He's still teaching people down in the Atlanta area. He played for the Braves. His name is Tom House. He also is the guy, I believe, that caught Hank Aaron's record-breaking home run was Tom House, I believe, in the bullpen.
It is, Joe. That's what I was, when you mentioned Tom House, that's the first thing I thought of. He caught home run number 714. Or 15.
Figure that out and remember that. But this at least answers the question of the head scratcher in my office, or if you go to a game early for minor league and major league, that out in the outfield, you'll see a lot of baseball players and particularly pitchers warming up throwing a football. And it is a good training technique, safe to the elbow, and probably even beneficial.
All right. Great information. And now the answer is out there for us as Joe did the investigation for us. Joe, thanks for the visit, my friend. We'll do it again next week. You have a good weekend, my friend.
Thanks, Ray. You too. Take care.
All right. Dr. Joe Congini, Sports Medicine Center, Akron Children's Hospital.